HCI, the 11th series of these lessons or these lectures. So these are the 5 key psychological principles of user experience and user interface design. And this was derived by an article by Sarah Preston. Introduction. User experience or UX is the most important aspect of any product. Well-designed UX drives user engagement. But badly designed UX doesn't just cause app abandonment. It is also been proven to damage your overall brand, making users less likely to engage with you in the future. How can you avoid this? By considering the science and psychology behind your product's UX and UI design. So that's a solution. What separates good and bad product design is understanding. Considering the motivations, goals, and frustrations of your users gives you a deep understanding of how they'll perceive and interact with your product. The aesthetic usability effect. UX design and psychology are closely related. There's a great comparison from Joe Leach, who likens a designer who doesn't understand psychology to an architect who doesn't understand physics. They are that intertwined. Aesthetics are, of course, an important element of any product design. But without an understanding of the social, behavioral, and cognitive psychologies that drive your users' decisions, great aesthetics can actually end up damaging your user experience. Why? Because expectations are so much higher. It is called the aesthetic usability effect. People automatically assume that a great looking product must be more intuitive. So, if it isn't, users end up blaming themselves. And this leads to frustration and ultimately app abandonment. It's principles like this that separate top-ranking apps from the rest of the market. They divide the internal apps that engage employees from the ones that alienate them. So here are now the five psychological principles that we're talking about. So first is number 1, we should keep the choices simple. So there's a reason why it takes you longer to pick from a restaurant menu with 100 different options. It's called Hick's law. So this is called the Hick's law. The more choices you offer users, the longer it will take them to arrive at a decision. Hick's law plays a fundamental role in how we approach digital products design. When you're trying to help your user achieve a goal or solve a challenge, speed is paramount. The more elements you show them, the longer it'll take for them to achieve their goal and the more frustrated they'll become. Instead of offering users every possible option at once, the design should prioritize the key elements. Choices should be limited to as few as possible, and long, complicated processes needs to be broken down into simpler steps. Meanwhile, less common in-app actions need to be grouped together under menus or clearly defined subcategory sections. And any unnecessary item should, of course, be removed completely. All of this reduces the amount of time it takes for users to arrive at a decision, helping them achieve their goal faster with less friction. Number 2, make important actions easy to reach. The further away your thumb or mouse is from the element you want to interact with, the smaller that element is, the longer it takes you to complete the action. This is called the Fitt's law, and it's a fundamental principle of a good UI design. The longer an interaction takes, the higher the chance that users give up. To combat this, every interactable element should be big enough for users to know what it is and to select it with ease. The highest accuracy for buttons, for example, is between 42 and 72 pixels wide. So making high priority frequently used action 72 pixels allows users to hit their target even when their finger or cursor is slightly off. The final component of Fitt's law is distance. In the area of supersized screens, this has become increasingly important. Stretching to reach a hamburger menu in the top left of my S10 Plus screen feels like fighting someone with a thumb war. That's why at Sonin we wireframe with reachability heat maps. This way, we're able to ensure that all the most important components and common actions are in the most easy to reach places. This lets users achieve their desired outcome much faster. Number 3, prioritize positioning. Most people will have trouble recalling any of the words from the middle, but they often have a much easier time to remembering the words that are either early or in the list of towards the end. Why? Because the serial position effect, which we can use to improve our digital product design. Take the navigation bar for example. There's a reason why home is almost always on the far left, and it's the same reason why the far right is commonly reserved for profiles or in boxes. Putting your most important items in the easiest to remember positions will limit the amount of recall required from users. By considering the serial position effect, you'll be able to make your product more intuitive and your users more adept. Number 4, be wary of the selective disregard. Today, we are all experienced product users, and with that experience comes learning that shape the way we interact with products. In the digital world, there are few learnings more important than the ability to ignore irrelevant information. It's impossible for users to give attention to every single digital stimulus that they use or that they see. So instead, they use selective attention to pinpoint what's important. We call this phenomenon selective disregard. And it's the reason that you're more likely to get hit by lightning 237 times than you are to click on a banner advert. So that means if you're already familiar with the banner advertisement, and chances are you're never going to click on this. So every time in your interface you could see a shape that is similar to a banner, then your mind will tend to ignore this banner. So that's what we call the selective disregard. So again, but selective disregard doesn't just apply to advertising. If an element isn't clearly related to their task, users will ignore it without even thinking. So every element should be designed with selective disregard and users' expectation in mind to ensure ease of use. Number 5, the fifth one is finally don't be evil. So in recent years, and after a fair amount of backlash, LinkedIn has updated its onboarding, but beforehand, it was one company notorious for employing dark patterns. This is a practice where companies carefully craft a user interface with the intention of tricking users into doing things they didn't mean to. So the technique is often used to trick people into buying unnecessary insurance for their purchases or unwittingly signing up for recurring subscriptions. So to do this, dark patterns often take advantage of the built-in expectations we all have as users. Brightly colored buttons means positive confirmation. A right-facing arrow means moving forward. Left takes you back. Right? Wrong. Dark patterns prey upon this expectation and play on people's fears. They prioritize business goals over users. Every business has desired outcomes they want to achieve through their product, but there are ways of achieving them without damaging the trust people have in your brand. So begin by pinpointing the opportunities where you can provide real value for your users. Once you've done this, you can find where your users' goals intersect with your business strategies. This approach ensures your product design provides value for everyone involved. So these are the 5 psychological things that we should or psychological principles that we should keep in mind in our UX and UI design. So that's the last one. So thank you very much for viewing this video.